So I guess one definition patients could give to medication errors is simply something went wrong. It could be either somebody did something wrong or myself, I did something wrong, and I will insist on this part. I think it's important that patients realize that we also can make mistakes. This could also increase the acceptance or the tolerance for in patients when healthcare professionals make mistakes, if we also realize that mistakes can easily be done by ourselves. I will mention a few products, a few companies. Don't take it personally. It's just for illustration purposes. And the 5 air rules that we've seen already, I think we the patients also have a role to play, because sometimes we can be confused about the drugs we are taking, or the dose, or the route, or the time, and even the right patient. Between parentheses, you can see the proportion of the medication errors that occur according to each of these possibilities as evaluated by the Guichet Erreurs médicamenteuses in France. And I think it's not only the right drug that we have to chase for possible errors, but all the other aspects are also important. For example, self-medication can be erroneous, and we are all aware about the possible risks, the possible errors that can come from patients exchanging products such as isotretinoin to treat acne, or thalidomide, which is also used to treat severe ptosis, including in young women. And these young women are at risk of using the product without the proper information that goes with it. Sometimes patients have to repack the medicines when they are traveling to make sure they can enter a country where there are some restrictions that apply to some patients with some diseases. But when they are back home, they don't necessarily put the product back in the right package. And as in our houses, we tend to mix all the different medicines for all the family. There can also be mistakes being done there. And do we always educate the public, the patients, the consumers, never to share medicines with others? This is an interesting initiative by the French agency to communicate to the public, to patients, the 7 rules of gold that are the minimum information that the agency working with patient organizations have listed. Always keep pills inside their box, and I will come back to this. And you see also other good sense recommendations to the patients to respect the indication, not to share with others, don't take if contraindicated, be aware of situations that can change the terms of use, adapt lifestyle, respect dose, etc. Contact your healthcare professional if there is a drug reaction, always be vigilant. The problem with this information is that there was no real budget to disseminate that very well done leaflet. It's available on the website, but as we know, it's not enough. You need a communication strategy to make sure that these precious recommendations reach their target. An example of what happens in our medicine cabinets in our houses. I don't know if it's a French habit only, but I guess it's everywhere the same in Europe, where all the family puts all the medicines in a cabinet. And here there are 2 adults. One is taking one of the product, and the other one is taking the other product from the same company. The name is a bit different, but globally, in their mind, it's the exact same name. And they put these boxes not in the medicine cabinet, but because they both take the product with their breakfast, with the cacao, the cereals that they take in the morning, and they can easily take the box of the other adult, and they exchange, in fact, the medicines. And by the end of the month, when they have to calculate by which date they have to go to the pharmacy to get a new box, then they take the pills from the other box to complete their own treatment, to make sure they can go to the pharmacy together holding hands. That's real life. That's what people do when they they have such boxes with very similar names, even though one of the two, as you can see, has put the name of the originator product on the box. And there are many lessons to derive from that picture, because in this case, he was first prescribed with Cotarec, but maybe he would have started treatment with a generic product. So to add the name of the originator product to the generic name maybe is not enough. There are some pharmacies who write down on the box the name the patient was initially prescribed, so that they know, and they even write, this is the generic of that product, to guide the patients, and that can be helpful. Taking about pills out of their boxes. There is a trend. It's very popular to offer patients with pill boxes. The idea is that this could help compliance and adherence. That's the expected benefit. A possible risk is to make people confused. In my own case, I have 3 different drugs to take, and I don't know what's in the mind of the pharmacist, but every time I go to the pharmacy each month, they give me a different generic product. Every month I have to sort out in my pills which is what. It keeps changing all the time. They have a computer that tells them what to give me this month. So if I put my pills in such a pill, at the end of the day, I can be confused. I don't know which is what. And I don't know, for example, which one needs to be taken with food or without food. So, for example, if I take this white pill, I look closer. This is what I can read on the pill. It's not helpful, but there are some services, online services that can help. I would like to show you this one. It's a private service working in close relation with the industry and the FDA, where you can enter some information on the tablets you have. Select the color, you select the shape, and you see you have a large choice of shapes you can select. And the site will tell you, in that case, it's mercaptopurine. It's just for illustration purposes. It gives you some information on the product, and you can link it to some medical applications that exist, where if you have entered the information yourself in your smartphone, for example, tells you that it has to be taken 1 per day, and you can also remind you yourself some important information in case a doctor proposes you to vaccinate against yellow fever, then at least you have this recall, this reminder that there may be a problem, an issue here. And there are many other applications, maybe even too many applications. Which ones are useful? Which ones really help? Which ones are confusing? There are applications like this one where if you visit a museum, you see something nice, you want to learn more about the painting, you make a picture of the painting, and immediately you have an explanation of the painting. There is a very popular application in France where you are drinking a bottle of wine, you make the same picture, not of the painting, but of the bottle, and it tells you where to buy the same bottle and a lot of information on the wine. And below you can see the same idea. You have medicine, you have a barcode or a different code. You could have a very rapid way to link the code on the box with important information that your healthcare professionals or regulatory agencies or yourself have decided you should obtain in a very rapid manner. A patient said about his own treatment that he takes up to 80 milligrams of a product each day, well, up to, depending on his condition. The tablets come in various dose amounts, and he takes various doses, so he needs to have various presentations of the product. The problem he has is that at the end of the month, after opening many of these pills, he cannot read on the blister which is the product or which is the dose, and he has 10 milligram ones, 5 or 1 milligram. For 20 years, I've been discussing with the industry, can you have a longer blister with a pill-free zone where the name of the product and the dose will remain whatever happens, so that people know which are the blisters, because we tend to take the box away and keep the blisters because it takes less volumes in our pockets, etc. I still haven't seen that magic blister where the name of the product and the dose would remain even at the end of the month. Oops. Okay. Graphic design and company corporate identity. We've been talking a lot about it. I would like to show you one example which was really a problem. You have on the left side Trizivir that contains idovudine, lamivudine, and abacavir. And abacavir is a product associated with the risk of potentially life-threatening hypersensitivity reaction. And the idea here to minimize the risk when it occurs, never re-challenge. That means bring back all the boxes to the pharmacy, destroy them, but don't keep them at home because you can make a mistake. And there are from the same company other bottles that contain, well, other combinations that contain the idovudine and lamivudine, or Ziagen that only contains abacavir. But it was quite tricky to explain to patients who had allergy how to not to use the product never again. To make the story more complex, there was this issue in the US affecting just one site, and where the patients had to be warned that an apparent third-party tampering caused misbranding of both products. And then in the bottle that were not supposed to contain abacavir, there were abacavir in the bottles. That was potentially life-threatening. So when you look at the bottle and what's inside, the bottle that contains Combivir, so no abacavir, has white tablets and a yellow label. And if you take the Ziagen box that contains abacavir, the box is white, but the capsule is yellow. Why don't you put the yellow tablets in the yellow bottle and the white tablets in the white bottles? It's not rocket science, it's good sense. I have nothing against GSK, but, well, there are other medical applications that can help. For example, this one developed by the University of Liverpool on the left side. It's very useful because this information doesn't exist in the package leaflet. This is for people with HIV taking antiretroviral products with very complex drug-drug interactions, not only with medicines, but other products like recreational products, alternative medications, etc. And there are a lot of studies, pharmacodynamic studies that can inform the patients on possible risks. And using this application and entering the names of the product that the patient wants to take, then there are some alerts, red, amber, or green, depending on the information which is in the database. And there are other medical applications. Some are free, some are not for free. There is a need to evaluate the services that these applications offer to the patients, which ones are useful, which ones are not useful, or the need to create a new one that could serve the purposes of regulators, of patient safety organizations, healthcare professionals, to convey the right message in simple terms to the patients who are taking the product. Shapes can help. For example, for patients with impaired vision, where you can have some medicines with the shape of a harp to help with your heart disease, or bones, or kidney, or lung disease. And there is another industry in another chemical sector which is very imaginative on what can be designed on the pills, with much more imagination than in the pharmaceutical industry. And I'm sure these can help for people who don't know exactly which is the tablet to write something, or to have a logo or a different shape to help patients, particularly those who have different drugs to take, or if they cannot see the names on the packs. The Haute Autorité de Santé in France has reported that, in fact, new technologies can decrease medication errors. Double-checking decreases administration errors. Simple control at all stages reduces medication errors. And also, informed patient can intercept 3% of errors. That's important. Again, it means that informed patients can intercept some errors, but 3% of errors, it's not many errors. So we should not over-expect patients controlling the healthcare professionals' actions. Patients can certainly control their own actions, but we should not expect them to control what others are doing. Popular measures very rapidly. I think the warning cards, for example, in the case of abacavir allergy, or cards that the patient has when taking thalidomide are certainly tools that can help. What is important is the discussion, the dialogue. I am giving you this card because of all this information I need you to know. So this exchange, these cards are a pretext for this dialogue to take place, and I think that is a very useful pretext. And to finish also that device, it's not exactly a medical device, but for those who can't read because they can't see or because of learning disabilities, it's a pen. You can record a message and you have a magnet with a code. You put the magnet, for example, on lasagna, and it will tell you if it's meat lasagna or horse lasagna. And I think you agree that nobody wants to mix them. And it works also very well for medicines. If you can't read, or if you have in your cabinet many medicines, you can't read, you have that pen that can tell you this is product X, and you have to take it twice a day, etc. Your mom or a friend may have recorded the message. That is useful because this has been brought to my attention with a patient with impaired vision. So this is already being used. It has a cost. So we cannot recommend easily all patients to acquire these kind of tools without having a proper assessment of their utility in daily life. Some are saying that maybe that could be reimbursed, but that needs to be evaluated. So to finish, some suggestions to patients and others, and it's not just these recommendations that are important, but I think there are recommendations for everyone. There are recommendations to industry, for example. I think there will be an IMI call to come to develop applications for smartphone and tablets on patient reporting of suspected adverse drug reactions, and also on data mining technologies and techniques. I think this call should be expanded to also try to evaluate which one of the medical applications can help patients diminishing the risk of medication errors. There are also needs for patient education, and there is the UPATI project, Patient Academy for Therapeutic Innovation, and we will develop key messages for the lay patients, like, for example, never to share drugs. We think pill identifiers are useful. When the UdraPharm website was in its infancy, we say that maybe it would be a good idea to link the information on the product with pictures of the medicines to help people identify and verify they were taking the right medicines. We are not there yet, but we think such a service could help. Plus the recommendations for graphic design for package, as we have been discussing these 2 days. So I will stop here. I thank other volunteers and colleagues who are helping me in this DITA task force, and thank you for your attention. And
50% of countries in Europe use a dispensing label on their medicines, and 50% don't. Those in the 50% that use a dispensing label that identifies the patient and the specific dosage for the patient cannot understand why the other 50% of Europe just hand out a manufacturer's pack. So if we're talking of harmonization and low-hanging fruit, surely to goodness, the minimum standard for medicines in Europe is that they have a dispensing label that identifies the patient, the pharmacy that dispensed the label, and the dosage. 50% of countries in Europe do not do that.